Welcome to the first week of Read It First, hosted by Lisa Gray. This week we're going to discuss Miss Ruffles Inherits Everything by Nancy Martin with guest host Crystal McEntee. A quick little synopsis of Miss Ruffles Inherits Everything is rich and flamboyant Honeybell Hensley, the most colorful character in Mulestop, Texas, dies a suspicious death and enrages the whole town by leaving her worldly fortune to her most undeserving recipient, her dog. The incorrigible Miss Ruffles is a Texas cattle cur, not a cuddly lapdog. And when Miss Honeybell was alive, Miss Ruffles liked nothing better than digging up Honeybell's famous rose garden after breakfast, chasing off the UPS man before lunch, and terrorizing the many gentlemen callers who came knocking at cocktail hour. But now Miss Ruffles is in danger, and it's up to Sonny McKillop, the unwilling dog sitter, to keep her safe. Sonny is new to Texas, and sometimes she feels as if she's fallen into an alien world. If it isn't the pistol-packing football fans and sweet-talking yet ruthless ladies of the garden club who confound her, it's the rowdy rodeo hounds and the tobacco-spitting curmudgeon at Critter Control who have her buffaloed. With a killer on the loose and a cowboy lawyer keeping a suspicious eye on her every move, Sonny needs all the help she can get understanding how Texans think. There's more to Honeybell's death than meets this Yankee's eye, and Sonny has Miss Ruffles to protect too. It's a buck and bull ride of an adventure for Sonny, and if she's not careful, she just might get killed or her heart lassoed in Nancy Martin's Miss Ruffles Inherits Everything. Please forgive the recording, as this is the first actual recording that I am doing, so there's a little bit of adjusting that needs done, but I hope you guys enjoy the discussion. Next week, hopefully it should be better. I will also be doing it virtually with Taylor Forrest. The book will be Dracula by Bram Stoker, so I look forward to discussing it with everyone later. This definitely was a very entertaining book, and definitely kind of a comedy along with a mystery. And I have to say the ending is not what I anticipated whenever I was reading it.
It definitely wasn't. It was a big shock.
So what was your overall thoughts of the book?
Tinsley?
Hensley. 10?
10, yes.
Yeah.
The lawyer. What? Just out of the blue?
Oh, by the way, they have a new producer at the TV station because Poppy's leaving.
Right. Like, I like you. Let's go on a date. And I'm like, wow, that was, out of the blue.
I kind of felt it kind of ramped up. They were, because he kept commenting about her mouth being a different color, and like, that's very true, because
To focus on, yeah.
yeah. It's like, okay, let's see, her mouth was, like purple one time from the popsicle, probably wrong on that color.
Yeah, different colors.
Blue from the
lollipops. And there were like always some kind of a color in her mouth. Plus her lipstick, which I still don't know the color of.
No, there's not descriptions on like the characters, which I kind of like and yet I don't like.
Right. Leaves you guessing or wondering to kind of make up your own color.
Yeah. Because I'm like, Honeybell Hensley, they kind of describe her, but they don't really say much about her other than she was a powerful woman in the town.
Right. Described her as like, helpful and generous and, super friendly to everybody, but that's basically all we got.
I think Miss Ruffles and then Bubba the cop. I think those are the two that we got.
That was descriptions. Yes, yeah. He was so handsome.
But I kind of like
a movie star.
I like that you kind of left it vague. It's like, this big movie star is going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are Brad Pitt. Some are going to think Nicolas Cage. Not so much here. I'd go along Taron Egerton because he's gorgeous to me.
Yeah, I don't even know who I was picturing. I was just like, okay, good looking. But he has to be young, I think. I would assume, like early 20s maybe.
Especially based on the fact that they discussed that he did not go to schooling and he was a little...
he was a little brother, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Posey, she is totally different than I thought she was going to be based on how the book started.
Yes. They kind of made her out to be like a bad person in the beginning.
They definitely did. I was just really
like, oh man, this lady sounds terrible. Like, she's up to no good.
The one that took Miss Ruffles.
Yeah.
Yes. But it definitely was amusing. It's like, oh, well, May, Mr. Carver, and Sonny, you all get to take care of Miss Ruffles. If you want to leave now, you get $50,000. If not, at the end of the year, as long as Miss Ruffles is there for it, you get $1 million. It's like, well,
Right.
I'm staying.
So May was like, just give me the 50,000. I'm out of here. Yeah, she was like, I'm not taking care of it. Which, you know, for $1 million, you would think she'd be like, okay. She lives there anyway, right? So it would just been another year.
Mm-hmm. You don't really have to do anything with the dog because Sunny takes
care of everything.
And with Miss Ruffles gets paid.
Yeah, that happened out of the blue. Like I was like, who would take the dog? I don't know. At first I thought maybe it was like
Cornfelter.
Cornfelter, yes. At first I thought it was him. But then, you know, I started realizing it wasn't because he was in other places at other times. So it didn't work out. And the letter was really uneducated. So
Could be Posey's way of just trying to really throw off. But once you realize that it was her son, Huck Jr.,
which she did mention that he was really strong, like able to like push her down and, you know, kind of control the situation. But when you said it was her son, I'm like, he's just a kid. Like, how much strength could he have possibly had, you know, to throw her on the ground?
Yeah, but if you think about it, they had the 2 kids. The one was, I'm guessing, probably around 6 or 7 based on how he was acting. But I'm thinking Huck Jr. might have been like 12 or 13, or maybe even 14.
Cigarettes and drinking.
Yeah, that's true. And as they say, everything is bigger in Texas, right?
But it was a grown man, you know, riding that 4-wheeler and lassoing her. And
yeah. And also, it's just like he was in on Honeybell's joke the entire time, but yet he still kidnapped Miss Ruffles because he was angry that his daddy didn't inherit the gas company because his mama, Miss Honeybell, wanted Huck to go on and be a musician in Memphis or whatever.
Not wanting to move away from their friends or whatever. I mean, that was just a big jump into trying to save the day. Like, I'm going to kidnap the dog.
Yeah.
And, you know, demand all of this stuff. I mean, that's just a lot.
It is. My first thought that was that he was asking for the money to get that truck that he wanted because Mama sold him the truck. Yeah. At least until a year's up, and it's like, if you wait a year, you get everything.
Yes. It was definitely a lot. And then just thinking about, you know, him putting in all that effort into luring her to the spot, you know, and lassoing her and dragging her literally, you know, which is dangerous, honestly. I mean, she could have got hurt, she could have died, like.
Yeah. If you remember, she also talked about how the breath was like whiskey, so like he was drunk. Yeah. So he was drunk as a skunk doing this, so he probably wasn't even thinking about the fact that he could really hurt Sunny.
Yeah. Which really threw me off later towards the end of the book, and I'm like, what was he trying to cover up besides looking, you know, hiding the dog?
Yeah, because he knew that Honeybell was going to come back. Maybe he was worried that she'd figure that out.
I don't think it was him. Was it him that knew, or was it the younger one that
It was
knew?
him that knew.
Oh, okay. So it was his plan.
It was. But I loved at the end that Honeybell's like, oh, I left you notes on my desk. And it's like, those are the notes that freaking Miss Ruffles destroyed. And I'm like, the whole book could have been avoided if it weren't for Miss Ruffles.
Yeah, and the fact that, you know, she was just like, you guys shouldn't be mad because I left you notes. And then Mayme was like, who cares if you wrote the notes? Like, you still died. It's wrong.
I love May's response. She's like, ready to kill Honeybell. She's like, you just put us through all this nightmare for a joke. Well, I'm important here. Look what life would be like if there wasn't me. It kind of reminded me of the Christmas movie where he wishes that he was never born, and so he gets to see the alternative timeline of what would have happened if he wasn't there. It kind of reminded me of that a little bit.
Exactly.
It's a Wonderful Life. That's it.
Yeah. It was pretty much like that. Like, how would people react after I die? You know, this is what's gonna happen. This is what I'm gonna leave behind. I'm gonna watch it all from, you know, a distance.
Yeah.
See how it goes. So, did they leave together, I guess is what I meant. Was she hiding out inside the funeral home until she could make her grand exit? Or did she leave first until Sonny questioned the funeral director guy?
So what kills me is that there's not a great timeline of things, but I think what happened is President Cornwalter went and was aggressive to Miss Honeybell while her nurse was in the pharmacy. And at that point, Honeybell's like, screw this, I'm going to pretend that I'm going to die because I feel very threatened by Cornwalter. So they went straight to the funeral home, proposed this, and I guess at that point called the lawyers and wrote the notes. But from how Sunny puts it, Honeybell never went back into the house to put the letters on the desk. So it makes me wonder, did she write them beforehand? And it's just like, just in case, or what? Like, because
she was already pre-planning it before.
She kind of did, but she kind of chose that moment just out of the blue.
Yeah.
Because that Cornfelter attacking her is why she was like, you know what, let's just do this now. So I guess maybe she planned ahead a little bit. But I also love that Tin's father and grandfather both ran away the second that Honeybell did this. But in the end, only the grandfather knew and convinced the father to take vacation at the same time. And I'm like, poor Tin, he's not even licensed yet, and he's having to deal with this. Yeah, and in the end, it was a joke anyways, but he definitely got his trial.
You know, really happened with the whole, she came out, she was laying over her purse. And then took her directly to the funeral home, and I'm like, afterwards was thinking, did that even happen, or that's just a story that they all came up with together?
I think it was a story, and in the book it states later that as soon as they left the funeral home, they went straight to Dallas and waited for the funeral director so they could go on that cruise together. But again, did she not take any clothes? I mean, God knows she has enough money.
Oh, right now. Like, they didn't, like, there was no plan. And if there was a plan, we didn't know about it.
And they really didn't explain the plan. And I'm just like,
very brief. The minute she showed up from the door to the end of the...
I do not blame any of them for being angry. I'd be like, you're going to pay me severance because this is full crap.
Yeah. They're here mourning somebody who just suddenly reappears. She got stalked by the Blues Brothers for money that she didn't even have yet.
Yeah, that was funny. I was reading a comment and they're like, 2 Jersey guys just suddenly in Texas is just a really weird offshoot from the book. And I'm like, yeah, but I mean, if the guy's like, oh, well, I'm hearing that the daughter is coming into money, maybe we can get money back from her, go intimidate her, and maybe she'll give us the money back. And it's just like, no, bite me. You gifted that money to my mother to go find the butterfly. It's not my fault she died.
He said, I'm not going to get my money for a year anyways. Like, I don't have it.
And thanks to her friend, the whole town knew because she told Cornfelter everything because she was sleeping with them. I do like that Sunny sent Bubba off to kind of get them partnered up, though. That was sweet of her, even though if it wasn't for her opening her mouth,
none of this would have happened. Like,
no one would have thought twice if Sunny was like, oh, hey, Mrs. Ruffles has gone missing. Can you help me find her?
Right.
Instead, she had to keep it completely quiet. I loved whenever she went to the shelter and found, quote-unquote, Crazy Mary, which I don't think she ever found out her actual name.
I don't think so.
But then she rescued Fred. He was adorable.
Outside of that shelter, he was like, I'm going to be the best dog ever.
Oh my God. The fact that, he went after Hellraiser and he hurted him and then suddenly dropped and they're doing compressions and nothing. And they're like, okay, let's call it. And suddenly he just pops back up and he's like, all right, I'm good to go. And they're like, not yet. And then at the end of the book, at the very end, whenever Sunny's like, you know what? Me, Miss Ruffles, and Fred need a new house. I'm like, oh, so you're just taking Honeybell's dog, huh?
I thought about that too. I'm like, so what's happening here? She's like just taking Miss Honeybell's dog, like it's hers. Like, I'm entitled to this. Me with your dog. There's no take backs.
No.
But the will did say find a good home for the dog.
Yeah.
Like, that was the whole point. Well, I guess they found a good home.
And I think Fred will be a great influence on Miss Ruffles because whenever Hellraiser broke loose at the rodeo, Miss Ruffles just started following what Fred did. I think partially also on instinct because these cattle dogs, it's so instinctively bred. Yeah. So I just loved that it's like, oh, Miss Ruffles has been a handful, but look at her with Fred. He's teaching her to really focus. Yeah. I did love that. I'm like, oh, Miss Ruffles. at least she had fun dancing with Rico and enjoying the music that Mr. Carver and Huck did.
Yeah.
I thought that was a very interesting little twist because it's like, what is Mr. Carver doing? Because her and Maymay hadn't even said anything. That once they both had decided that, yeah, we think Miss Honeybell got murdered, they hadn't even said that they thought Mr. Carver could have done it. But as soon as Carver handed Sonny the drink, Sonny took a sip and she's like, probably shouldn't have done that. And then Maymay knocks it over. She's like, no, let me do my voodoo magic and you'll be A-okay. No, I mean, he definitely was a very quiet and subdued person to begin with. And I feel like if he had done it, he would have probably killed himself with a heart attack or something because he was so of a delicate constitution.
He's already at the door.
Process with the heart meds, it's like, okay, Huck knew about him. And it's like, did he potentially give Honeybell the hopes of getting the gas company sooner? But, and kind of the same thought with Posey, because A, she wanted Huck to do well, and B, she really wanted her sister's wedding in the Rose Garden, because all of the girls, every single person on the family, is named after a flower, which I thought was funny. The Texas names threw me off a little bit, because I listened to the book more than I read it. And did they just say his name is Tennyson, like the number 10? Yeah. I'm like, and it's spelled T-E-N, so I'm like, maybe it's for Tennessee? No, but I'm like, in the same thought, I'm like, Texas, they're kind of their own country, so like, I don't really feel that they would name their kids after another country or another state. Maybe another city in Texas, but it threw me off, and I'm just like, oh, this poor guy, Tennyson, it definitely is a lawyer name, though.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And then Poppy, I believe, was she the one that was dancing at the barn earlier?
Yes.
And
Poppy
tried to
was
convince Sonny that it was her uncle. Was
Uh-huh.
it really her uncle she was dancing with?
I don't think so. And based on how she was talking throughout it all, I think she just wanted a bigger and better life.
Yeah.
And she kind of, I think at that point had realized that what she was talking with Tin wasn't what she wanted. But I also love that she confessed to Sonny that's like, oh, I got fired from my other job, but don't tell Tin. And it's like, why would you tell that to someone you barely know? They don't really explain how they got together. They really, yeah, they were together at the house, but like, as soon as they arrived there, it was one of those things, okay, Ethan tells her, go look at the gazebo. I'm going to talk to Sonny. Granted, that was right after Bubba had given her the restraining order, which I thought was funny. And I'm like, oh, it's because Posey has the dog. Like, that was my only thought. And it's like, well, kind of true.
Yeah.
Posey kind of did have Miss Ruffles, but she was trying to convince Huck Jr. to go get Miss Ruffles back, and she's like, I assumed he had, especially when I saw the other dog. And it's just like, if Sonny hadn't gone and adopted Fred in hopes to trick Carver and Maymay, which obviously at one point whenever Fred rolled over onto his back, Maymay realized that there's a problem because that's a boy. But she'd never adopted him. She could have gotten Miss Ruffles back a lot sooner, because I'm sure Posey would have just went straight after Huck Jr. and been like, you need to go do this now.
Yeah.
It kind of makes me think that she has a lot of either trust in him, or, which, I mean, I think she kind of does have a lot of blind trust, considering how many times that kid was drinking and smoking during that period. Yeah, and she was kind of afraid of Miss Ruffles, because Miss Ruffles bit a bunch of people, to be fair. But it was all in the whole aspect of Miss Ruffles wanted to protect Honeybell. And, I mean, cattle dogs, their thing is to nip heels. So I'm wondering how much of it was her nipping heels trying to herd people where they wanted to go versus being aggressive.
Yeah. Close on space and then kick back away.
Yeah.
It might have been like that because...
Yeah, and she was really sweet with the whole throwing the ball, but obviously, and I mean, having the 3 healers myself, if you don't throw the ball fast enough, they're going to try to bite it out of your hand because they really want that ball. It's not them trying to be aggressive, it's just they want to play now.
Yeah.
And I love them for it, but if you're not quick, you can definitely get nipped, but it isn't an aggressive nip. It's oops, I wanted it.
Yeah. A little bit aggressive when she was hogtied, I believe that.
I don't blame her. That poor dog could barely walk afterwards.
For giving her water.
He kind of insinuated that he was kind of taking care of her, but with how lethargic she was whenever she first got back to Sonny, but, I mean, obviously she fell in love with Sunny because Sunny ran her, which these dogs love exercise. She kept her busy. She's the one who fed her and took care, made sure she went outside. So like she grew a good bond with Sunny. So like as soon as she got untied, she's like, "Oh my God, thank you, Mama." I honestly, whenever she was telling him to go get water, I half expected him to not do it and attack Sunny to just kind of cover up everything.
If it's telling me what to do, I better do it.
Yeah. And I mean, potentially the tone of voice that she used is what kind of kicked him out of it. Because I know some people, if you use a certain tone of voice, it kind of overrides a lot. Yeah. But I'm just like, it kills me because he only knew how to hog tie because he'd been doing rodeo stuff with 10. So if it hadn't been for 10 training him, he would not have been able to do that. And I love that he used 10's ATV. I think 10 realized who it was as soon as she had mentioned that it was his ATV.
Oh, yeah, because he got real quiet and he was like, what? What day was that? On a Monday?
He did. And at that point, he was the rodeo clown. And then shortly after that is whenever she found Miss Ruffles, Hellraiser got loose. I'm like, I'm sorry, but if you know this bull is so dangerous, I would have a lock on that paddock so that no one could open it but me. Not just, I'm just going to guard it all day. Because it's like, at some point, you got to use the restroom. And you're not going to be able to find someone like that to be able to be like, hey, can you watch this for me?
Yeah.
It's just like, what on earth? It killed me. I thought it was hysterical. I'm like, that's not very brilliant of a lawyer.
Right. Thank goodness for Fred.
Oh my God. I loved how Fred was just like, all right, let's go. I got this. And it's just like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I thought he was supposed to die in a week.
Right.
No, they never said what he was dying from. Just said week to live. So she's like, okay, let's go ahead and let you adopt him. But I'm like, okay, so did that disappear because he just got to run?
New body.
Yeah. You're like, God, I'm good to go. And I mean, I do have to say these dogs are super durable is one way to put it, but they get hurt and they just keep going and going and going. And like, if you watch any of the veterinary shows that take care of farm animals, these healers get kicked in the face, get thrown, and they just keep going. They do not care.
Popsicles.
Part of it, I think, was trying to draw attention to the mouth so that it could give 10 a reason to be like, ooh, I want to kiss you, basically. But my other thought process, which went very into the psychology world, about Sigmund Freud is whenever you are perpetually using like lollipops, you get an oral fixation. And it's because whenever you were going through your growing up stage, you just didn't get enough of that suckling and cuddling and that type of thing. And based on how her mama seemed to be, mom was gone. She kind of was independent. So and maybe that's part of it, but I think I'm going too far into that thought process with that. I don't know if it's because there legitimately was no connection, and the only reason why Honey was going to leave that money is kind of similar to why she took care of all the town folks and gave them all loans until she decided to try to fake her death because she thought it would be funny and make sure that people knew just how important she was because she'd gotten revoked from the head of the flower committee, which of course, in the end, at Posey's defense, she's like, I was just trying to really gain my mother-in-law's affection because I feel like I've never gotten it. But I don't really feel that that would be a good way to get a mother-in-law's affection. She just lost her, like, president-level status. Well, the feds were writing a letter stating that they're going to come look at my garden, so I figured it was a good time to leave town. It's like, well, surprise, they came and your rose garden looks like crap now, so peace, I'm leaving, I'm going to go be with 10. I guess May May probably would. They never said what happened to May May and Mr. Carver, but I'm assuming May May probably went back to New Orleans to live with her grandchildren and daughter.
It was a lie. Ta-da!
Yeah, it's like theoretically that was legitimately what the new will said, but I think she only wrote that will because she was like, well, I'm going to fake my death, and I want to make sure that Miss Ruffles is taken care of, and no one really gets money, but if they don't want to do it, at least they'll get $50,000. It's like, well, shit, they might as well just quit and take it.
May would have taken that 50 grand and like left. She would be the only one that got something out of it because she had promised her grandkids that she was gonna give them money.
Yeah.
And now she can't because she don't got none.
Yeah. May just kill me with all that because I'm like, she just wants to be a good grandma.
Mm-hmm.
But could you imagine making the call to May to be like, so, Honeybell ain't actually dead, May? Just with the utter fury that May had whenever Honeybell walked through the door, she's like, you're supposed to be dead. I felt that. Yeah. To me, it's like you want to make sure that certain people know that you're fine. You do not leave them a letter. You talk to them and say, hey, this is what's going to happen. I just want you to know so that you're not utterly devastated thinking that I'm actually dead. But it's like they went through everything, all the hoops, had the funeral, and Tan's just like, I even had to read the will, but I couldn't find the death. I love that he could never find the death certificate because it didn't exist. But it's just like, oh, well, Mr. Gumble, the funeral director, is out of town, and then Sunny sees him like a day later, and she's like, he's not. But she doesn't really go, well, he's not out of town. Why doesn't he just give us the death certificate? She never makes that link. Even though she still has Miss Ruffles at that point. There's no reason for her to panic internally. But also, the idea of, oh, she dropped dead, so I just took her straight to the funeral home. Huh? But also, I'm like, funeral directors can't say that someone is dead. You have to be a full MD. You have to have a physician do it. And there's a lot of tests that you have to do to actually say that the patient is dead. So I'm like, no. Plus, oh, she's keeled over. I don't feel a pulse. My first thought would not be, let's go to the funeral home. My first thought is go to the ER or take her out of the car, start compressions, call an ambulance.
From the death, like, we're just gonna take her there. She might be passed out, but who cares?
It's fine. She's not coming back.
Like, nobody. They just all took the word for it and was like, oh, mom's dead. Give me the money.
He even talks about the fact that her mama died recently. Granted, her mom died on an expedition, so she probably doesn't have that connection. And May was initially just questionable of it because she watched all those crime shows. And of course, May thought it was Sunny that did it, and Sunny's like,
it was you.
Sunny's just like, whoa, how am I the untrustworthy one here? And then I love their connection as they started to get to know each other and be like, all right, who the heck killed Miss Honeybell? It's like, oh, well, no one.
Yeah, nobody.
Y'all are saying that Honeybell was completely in her sound mind, so what did I do? Tell her to, at gunpoint?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the lawyers would have noticed if I came in and had her at gunpoint. Just saying.
Yeah.
Or explain.
Aren't you too old to babysitter?
It's like, well, wasn't hired on to be a dog.
How long was she working for Honeybell? Not long, right?
I think less than a year. Yeah, I think only a few months.
She's supposed to be a personal assistant or a secretary or something.
Yeah, and then it just
more. I wonder if Honeybell ever really wanted the dog. Like, got tired of watching Miss Ruffles and was like, here, you start doing it.
Yeah, because it was tradition that they take the cattle dog to the first game and to all the animal games because, let's face it, everyone's superstitious whenever it comes to sports.
And mascots.
Yeah. So it felt that need to keep it up, but yeah, maybe she wasn't as big on the dogs. I mean, she obviously did Miss Ruffles. Yeah, she gave her lots of love whenever Miss Ruffles would jump up. But I think the only reason that Ruffles attached so much to Honeybell is because she was the primary person in her life. Yeah. And then Sunny comes along, and there's just so much more of a bond formed.
Miss Ruffles and Sunny are like one now.
She's gonna live on the ranch with me, Fred, and Ten. But I'm just like, oh, so you guys. So the next day, he's gonna break up with his girlfriend,
take her to dinner.
She never officially tells Tim that she's the one that called the station, but she obviously tells us in the book that she's the one that called the station to refer Posey
for the position,
or Poppy for the position, because she's like, I know she'll do good, but also we'll see what fate gives, because if Poppy and Ten are meant to be, they'll go together, and if not, they break up, and cool, they end for me. Well, Ten basically looks at her and basically is like, no, you didn't. She's just like, yeah, well, I had to see. It's like, by the way, I'm moving into your ranch with the two dogs that one is legally mine because I adopted him, and I'm stealing Miss Ruffles from Honeybell.
Yeah.
I'm just like, boy, this totally went really crazy. But like, the other thing that doesn't even talk about the idea of thinking of kids or being finds attractive from the get-go But I love at the end, she's like, oh, I can just imagine my kids going up and getting bows off of the tails of cattle and just being out there, not learning to fear, and just be just like Ted. That's like, wow, you jumped from not even dating to the idea of marriage and kids like that. And I'm guessing he'll go on with the ride because he was kind of doing that with Poppy anyway.
Bubba, he liked Sonny.
He did.
He did, and then Tim was like, well, he likes you, you better be nice to him.
Yeah, but to be fair, at that point, he was looking at Bubba more like a future brother-in-law because he was the little brother of Poppy's. But that's why Sonny was like, oh, well, can you go check on my friend? She decided to walk home, and I want to make sure she's cared for before, kind of to be like, I think that will be a great mix because she's looking for a knight in shining armor, and he's looking to be the knight in shining armor. I think that, what did they say, that you didn't pass until his third time?
Finally got your uniform?
I did think that. It's like, oh, you look so cute in your uniform. And he's just like, he just takes it. He doesn't even get embarrassed. I'm like,
Just like a little bit.
my ass would have been so embarrassed. I'm like, oh my god, my sibling right in front of friends and this girl that I like.
That I just served.
Yeah, just served a restraining order. But I didn't ask any questions. Why did you get this? Well, Posey said she's afraid of Miss Ruffles, so she was going along with the idea that Miss Ruffles is with Sonny all the time, so we're putting the restraining order against Sonny. Like, my big sister, the whole world revolves around her. I need to make sure she's taken care of.
I still never really understood that whole
the restraining order. The whole idea was she was afraid that they'd go after the kid for kidnapping the dog or dog napping. She finally told 10, if I remember correctly, because whenever Hellraiser is out, and Miss Ruffles, after Miss Ruffles and Fred and Tin help corral him back into the corral, I think she's like, oh yeah, actually, I don't think she ever said who it was. I think she just said that she was tied up and I found her.
Yeah.
And Posey was definitely very appreciative of that. I think if the book had continued on more, I think her and Posey would have gotten real close. Because it's like, you protected my kid even though he hogtied you, dragged you up, attacked you, hogtied Miss Ruffles and didn't return her, and was trying to get you to pay $10,000 of ransom that you don't have. Well, if I remember correctly, it doesn't really have much of an inheritance. They were saying that the Applebys are kind of more like a well-to-do family. But, I mean, Huck makes good money by how they were discussing, plus the fact that they've got this beautiful house in this nice little area. So, but I'm just like, I'm not sure how the kid made the leap of, oh, well, Daddy's not getting the oil company. Doesn't state that he's fired. To, Dad is being told that he has to leave and has to go make a band in Tennessee. Like, what?
Yeah.
That was a really big jump in my mind, which...
And it's all your fault.
Yeah. If you just really took it out on Sonny and Miss Ruffles, and it's like, but you know that your grandma is not dead.
Right.
You're in on this. And he doesn't really state why he did it, other than he didn't want to have to move. And I'm like, well,
he could have just asked his, grandma.
Well, also, he knows that grandma's coming back. He's like, I mean, obviously Honeybell, or as they kept calling her, Moneybell, had plenty of money considering she was offering Carver, Maymay, and Sonny $1 million each, and God knows how much other money she was offering to people, because they don't really discuss that.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, this is interesting. I have the stadium named after her deceased husband.
He went to jail, right?
The President Kornfelter got arrested for harassment, I want to say, of his staff. And Gracie, I think, is Sonny's friend's name. Gracie's like, well, he's very passionate. And it's like, no, honey, he ain't passionate. He's aggressive. But it's okay. She's probably going to end up with Bubba and it'll all be fine. Well, Sonny's like, I'm pretty sure that's the same flowers. And I'm like, is it the exact same bouquet? And he's held on to it? Or what? Yeah, they don't really state that. No, it's just like, you know that he's an aggressive guy. I know you're trying to get your way, but still.
Right. Maybe I'll just make out with whoever.
But then at the end, she's like, oh, well, Mr. Gumble, he doesn't have anyone, and...
He's a nice guy.
Yeah. And then at the end, he's like, oh, so I'm moving with you. And she's like, no, we went on vacation together. I just love that. She's just like, this does not mean what this means.
Oh, he was hoping too, because he was coming by like almost all the time to talk to her.
Yes, mostly because of the disaster preparation since his wife died from a tornado. And it's just like, and of course they come back in the middle of the mud storm is what I consider it, considering it was raining mud, and I'm like, that sounds disgusting.
Yeah.
Very strong winds. And of course it's like, and suddenly the lights come back on. It's like, it actually is Honeybell. We thought it was a ghost.
It was like right in front of your face, but you're like, it can't be that easy. Like, there's got to be like a plot twist somewhere.
I
And they
mean,
just kept throwing things at you.
it kind of is like
Could be
real
life.
life. Yeah. Because you're like, I don't think it could be Mr. Carver, but I mean, he does have access to the Hartmans. So maybe he just got really frustrated because I think they said that she had an argument with him. And it's just like, Honeybell. Yeah, it's like Honeybell is supposed to be this sweet, considerate person, and suddenly she's she's arguing with the President Kornfelter. She lost her president position in the garden club. She's arguing with Mr. Carver. May's angry at her because she hired Sonny. I'm like, this woman has made a lot of bad choices in the last couple of weeks leading up to the faked death.
Yeah.
I felt like this story was just really out there compared to everything else, but yeah, she was very entitled with it. Or, oh, well, it's not my fault that I didn't have all the customs forms filled out. They were supposed to take care of that. It's like, well, yes, but you're also supposed to make sure that everything is there before you accept it.
She did from Germany then.
While she was on vacation. It was like, she was talking about the fact that she's like, how was I supposed to know they didn't fill out all the customs forms? And like, that's fair, but that's why you make sure that you follow up with like the FDA and the agriculture department so that you know that the right stuff's coming in. Because, I mean, as crazy as it is to have to be so tight on what can be allowed to be imported into the country, it's important because.
Right, you know, she's like, just because you can't see anything doesn't mean it's not there. There could be, you know, insects or something that aren't supposed to be here. So I think they brought up snakes at one point. She's like, there's no snakes here.
I
don't think they have a prairie dog.
Yeah. Huh. They could go back and forth there. That could be entertaining. I do love the prairie dog aspect because I'm just like, at the end, whenever they're like, oh, the guy's getting the prairie dogs from my trunk, and then suddenly it's like, oh, the prairie dogs are running everywhere, and it's like, oh, that must be why everyone's freaking out. And then they're like, oh no, Hellraiser got out. And it's like, wait, what? How did we go from prairie dogs and potentially snakes on the loose to Hellraiser being out? I'm like, oh my god, everything went crazy. I kept you on your toes the entire time. Okay. Also, the whole idea of bless your heart can be a positive or like a F you. Yeah. It all depends on the intonation and what is happening. Because it can be like, oh my god, thank you so much. Or you're a complete freaking idiot. I hate you. And I'm going to make it sound like I'm okay with it. But it's just like if you're from the South or you know the South, you know that can come off either way. And you got to listen to the intonation and the look of the face. It might have been. But I remember also Polly was at the church whenever Sunny had brought Miss Ruffles into the church. She's like, oh, bless your heart, because she's like, I can't get this dang mutt out of here. She's like, I gotta keep my faith. Yeah, because it's just like one thing after another, and then you start to go back a little bit on some of the details. It is a little bit of jumping around. It was, yeah. It wasn't so much so that you're like, wait, when did this happen? Either Honeybell or her mama, and it's just like, you know at those points you're like, oh, well, they're dead in your mind, even though the one isn't. It's like, the back just like, so is her mama actually dead then? I don't know. To be fair, I have to say, as scientists, we get very focused on things, and we're all kind of ADHD, and we get focused, and sometimes we just are not paying attention, and we'll run into things, we'll trip over something, just be like, oh, whoops.
Maybe she wasn't. I don't know.
I mean, to be fair, they're still coming up with new species of everything, and we've been researching and keeping documentation of this stuff for hundreds of years at this point, and we're still finding new species.
Yeah.
And I think some of that is probably species are hybridizing, they're mating together, and suddenly there's a new offshoot.
Mm-hmm.
But so there easily could have been, and it's just like, yeah, you were promised this, but you're angry that you didn't get it. But the thing is, she still came back from that expedition and not found anything.
Yeah.
Are you going to go after her for your money then too? Like, if she had survived? Maybe.
Yeah.
That could be an interesting follow-up book. Yeah. But yeah, it was a good book. Definitely interesting. Next week we will talk about Dracula. So that will be interesting, and we'll kind of, I think I'll probably discuss some of the differences between the book versus the movie, because there's a lot of differences, and my guest host will be Taylor Forrest. So thank you guys, and thank Crystal for joining me today. So what gives? So this definitely was a very entertaining book, and definitely kind of a comedy along with a mystery. And I have to say, the ending is not what I anticipated whenever I was reading it.
Definitely wasn't. It was a big shock.
So what was your overall thoughts of the book?
Tinsley, I think.
Hensley.
Hensley?
Oh, 10?
10, yes.
Yeah.
The lawyer. What? Just out of the blue?
Oh, and by the way, they yeah. Need a new producer at the TV station because Poppy's leaving.
Right. Like, I like you. Let's go on a date. And I'm like, wow, that was, out of the blue.